hello, everybody. My name is Serona Elton. I am the head of educational partnerships here at the Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC. And you are joining us today for a roundtable, Teens in Music. We are so excited to be bringing this to you today. I have some new friends that I'm here hanging out with today, and we have a lot of great stuff to tell you about. So a couple housekeeping things. This is a Zoom webinar, which is a little different than like a Zoom meeting or like a Zoom class. And so what you actually have at the bottom of your screen, not on social media, but if you're on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A feature there. Little Q&A, that's for question and answer. And so if you have questions as we go through the session, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A. I can't promise that we'll get to them all, but we'll see what we can cover at the end. Any questions, okay? We might put some links in the chat to share with you. If we're like, hey, check out this cool thing on our website or something like that, we might post about it in the chat. But put your questions in the Q&A. And if you put questions on our live on LinkedIn, our support team will also share those questions with us. So we'll see if we have some time at the end, okay? All right, so first I want to let my guests introduce themselves to you. I'm gonna ask them to tell you their names and what cities they're joining from. I am here actually in Miami, Florida, way down the bottom here. And so I'm just gonna go around and call on them and let them say hi, tell you where they are, where they're joining from. Jaden, let's start with you.
Yes, hello, my name is Jaden Moyer. I am from the city of Roanoke, Virginia.
Roanoke, woohoo, all right, excellent. All right, say hi, Mystery.
Hi, my name is Mystery Rose, and I'm from Los Angeles, California.
Very cool, look at this, we got down south, on the East Coast, on the West Coast. Okay, Leah, say hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm Leah Bell Fazer, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I have a little bit of a cold right now, so I sound very stuffy, but...
Oh, you sound great. You sound fantastic.
Puts me down the octave, you know, just a little.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, how about you, Caesar? Say hi. Tell us where you're joining from.
Hello, I'm Caesar, and I'm joining from San Francisco, California.
San Francisco, awesome. And how about you, Romero?
Yeah, same. We're both in the same classroom. It's gonna end soon, so the noise will.
For those of you who still have your kids and iPads, bring them up. Hey, what's the changes to the iOS?
Okay, so you guys might have figured out from the background and the masks that Caesar and Romero right now are in a classroom. So, but that's not going to stay that way for long. And so they're going to just kind of listen to us for a little while. And it won't be long before they can actually go back on and start talking to us without as much background noise. You guys know how loud it can be in classes, right? So, all right. So what I want to hear all about is the passion that you have, what that is about, right? Why are my guests with me today? What made them the perfect people to talk to you about this today? So my first question to the group overall, right, is, you know, how do you feel about music? How does music make you feel? And where did your interest in music come from? Let's start with that. So Mystery, actually, let's start with you on that question.
Well, I've always loved music since I was little. My first musical artist was Taylor Swift. I know that sounds cringy now, but she was my idol. I loved her country albums. I even bought the guitars that she was selling, and I learned how to play. And I've always loved listening. I listened to music for like 2 hours a day, just different artists, and I like to have different experiences with like different types of music. So yeah.
Awesome. So actually, why don't you expand on that a little bit? And then when I ask everybody else the same question, so tell me about your relationship with music. You're a songwriter, you're an artist, you're both?
I am a songwriter and an artist.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go to you, Jaden. Tell me about music and what your connection to it is, and then tell me what kind of stuff you work
on. For me, music is a complicated thing with me. I started off with just songwriting. I would just sit in my room and write songs. I have a 300-page journal that I filled completely with of songs. And for the longest time, all I wanted to do was just write. But then I started playing around with music and things like that at my dad's church. And eventually I joined my dad's church worship team as he became the pastor. And then I just kept playing music from there. And now I'm in a class where I get to expand on that. I'm a massive gearhead, so I like a lot of musical gear. So when I'm in this class, my teacher, Mr. Ruby, he can tell you, like, I just be freaking out over the newest gadgets we get. So it's just always been a blast. And as for like musical artists and things like that, for me, it was probably Alicia Keys, because my mom would always play Alicia Keys in the house. And that's where I kind of learned keyboard and things like that. And just dancing along to like the songs and whatever, like Empire State, things like that. So.
Oh yeah, I'm a
really,
huge
like,
Alicia Keys fan. That's so awesome.
I was hearing Alicia Keys from the womb, so it's like, I guess I was always going to have a connection.
It was meant to be, meant to be. Maybe one day you'll meet her. That'd be amazing. That is so cool.
That'd be
All right.
excellent.
That'd be excellent. Excellent. Okay, so we'll have mystery meet Taylor. You can meet Alicia. All right. So Leah, tell us about you and your relationship with music and your source of your passion and how you tell us about your creative side.
Absolutely. And I love both of those artists. They're my favorites. So that's good to hear. But I've been singing since I could talk, like forever. And growing up, I was surrounded by music, all different genres. And so I developed a very diverse taste in music. And my brother was also very into music growing up. So I followed in his footsteps just a little bit. You know how siblings are going, I've got to do this if you're going to do this. So we started playing out when I was younger. And then I sort of, I grew to love songwriting, and it was very therapeutic for me to songwrite. And I know that, the music industry is incredibly competitive. You have to really find something that makes you unique. And so not only that creative aspect of songwriting, I wanted to make me unique, even though I loved it. You also have to find something different about yourself within that. So I'm still, searching everything just, to try to, market myself as something different. I think that's how people really develop an audience in the music industry. But through songwriting and through singing, I really realized that I had a passion for music that I wanted to pursue for the rest of my life.
I just want to say something about what you're saying. What you were saying about marketing and creating a brand, honestly, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Just be yourself, because you don't have to brand yourself to be somebody else. Be yourself. That's honestly how I think an audience will appreciate you.
Absolutely. I think especially in like songwriting, when you write a song, and obviously every story has been told before, a heartbreak story, cheating stories. It's really finding an interesting take on that same story that is fresh and that people haven't heard before. And so that's something I try to do for sure, just within the songwriting aspect.
Absolutely. Everybody has a unique story to tell, and you just got to find a way for people to connect with your story. That is fantastic. And Cesar Romero, I'm not going to call on you yet. We're going to come back around in a little while and find out a bit more about you guys and what you're up to. But what blows me away as I hear about how creative all of you are, and I heard a little bit about you guys before we got here today. So tell me, and we'll come, okay, I see. So Cesar and Romero might be quiet there in a minute. I'm going to come back to you guys though. And I'll throw this one out there. Maybe we start with you on this one, Jaden. How do you balance all the things that go into being a teenager in life in terms of school and family and, whatever else? How do you balance that with music? How do you find time for music? Like, what ways is music, integrated into your day? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I didn't know there was a balance with being a teenager. I thought.
Well, I guess
I thought
so. How
chaos.
do you find? Maybe it's not balanced. Maybe it's just how do you find time for it? How do you do it? How do you pull it off?
Well, thankfully, Thankfully for me, I have a mother at home that can like put up with like. Thankfully enough, she finds way to invest. She finds her own way. She don't want to hear me, banging out on a drum set or tuning my guitar, like things like that. But she finds her ways, and like, for example, my garage, she got me some soundproofing equipment for my garage. So then that way I can expand on that in the garage and not in the house and drive her and my little sister crazy. So thankfully for me, I've had people in my life who have taken an interest in things like that. And therefore, through that interest, they find a way for me to get time. Not exactly me finding it, but them helping me find it. So it's been
that is so lucky. So how often are you in that garage making music? Like, do you get involved in music at all during your normal school day? Is it something you do after school when you get home? Something you do all weekend? Sort of, when do you find the time for it?
So I'm lucky enough to have Mr. Rigby here. So we have a class here, right? I am the only third year and advanced student, and I'm also his teacher assistant. So all these different type of things, I get to really expand on what I do at school. For example, our school just gave us permission to get a school studio, which is currently being built right now. There's drilling sounds earlier. Thankfully, it's over, but it's definitely very unique, the opportunity that I have at my school right now. We actually got a whole grant last year, which was amazing. It gave us so much musical equipment. If I were to show you in my classroom right now, you see like guitars and basses. We have amps. We have whole studio gear, and I get to actually take that home with me. And then when I'm at home, because my garage is a little soundproofed, it's pretty much like a in-home studio, and I have the equipment to do what I want with.
That is a fantastic situation you got going on there. I'm sure a lot of people wish they had the same thing going on. That is great. Actually, I'm going to pivot for a second before I come back to Mr. and Leah with some more questions. Now that we can actually hear from Cesar and Romero. So Cesar, why don't you tell us a bit about, how did you, where's your inspiration for music come from? And are you a songwriter and an artist, just a songwriter? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Hello, my name is Cesar. I got my inspiration from hearing music a lot, and the first person that I heard music from was Frank Sinatra, and when he played the trumpet, I fell in love with trumpet, and that was the first instrument I played, and I got my inspiration from him. And I'm actually a arranger, so
that's very really cool. So do you play trumpet? Would I be correct in assuming you play trumpet?
I play trumpet, piano, and drums. Yes.
Ah, very cool. Very, very cool. Wow. I did not expect Frank Sinatra. You got me there. That was wonderful. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay. How about you, Romero? Tell us a little bit about your inspiration and, what kind of creative stuff do you do right now?
Well, I guess my inspiration for music in general has sort of shifted over the past couple of years. I feel like I've really started to get into music. Like when I was younger, I just sort of liked music, whatever was on the radio, and whatever my parents played. But I've started to like find my own artists that I like listening to. I guess it mainly what I like about music, I guess, or inspiration would be just the fact like it as an art form. I guess there's lots of things you can do with an art form. Like there's this one album that I listened to that is sort of abstract in its narrative, but still tells like a cohesive story throughout through its tracks. Called Hawaii Part 2, kind of. And also just recently, I think I've started to like get into like more sound design, I guess, like how you can use modern technology to create like new sounds and soundscapes to create like completely different worlds. I guess it's just really interesting to me. And yeah, I guess just those main things that get me just into music. But I've only started recently.
Oh, you started recently? I was like, do you play anything in particular, or you like to make all the sounds in the computer?
Well, I guess, I mean, over haven't really gotten that much into like professionally making any songs, but I have like
Okay.
been experimenting just with different instruments and things over the past year. But only like recently in this class actually, I've been like learning how to like produce music and whatnot. So
Very cool, very cool. That is great. Excellent. Thank you. I'm so glad we can hear you guys clearly now. So Mystery, tell me, how do you like where does music and songwriting fit into like your daily life? How do you juggle going to school and all these things with finding time to be creative?
Well, I want to say that my mom is one of my biggest fans and she pushes me every day to be better. So, we both book gigs and we have a band practice so we can achieve greater technique and strive to be better. And we also focus on writing more music. I take time out of my day to create more songs and ideas. And yeah, I take time to post on social media and let my fans know what's going on. So,
All right. So it sounds like you found a way to make it all hold together. You found
yes.
the hours in the day. That's fantastic. How about you, Leah? How do you make sure that your music gets the time it needs, as well as all your other things you have to take care of?
Right. I mean, it can get crazy at times, but for me, I play out every weekend and sometimes during the week. And so, my friends know that this is what I do on Fridays and Saturday nights, so I can't go out. And I kind of see myself, as a business, and I'm marketing a product, and just as someone who, say, had a jewelry business or something like that, they spend time doing that. I spend time with my music because it's drip, drip, drip until you hit that big thing. And so you just have to work. And I play a lot of bars and restaurants. And so sometimes you can be like, oh my gosh, this is tearing me. I'm getting, very thin here, but but then I get some bigger stuff, and I've been fortunate to play some festivals and open for some people with my band, and it's been fabulous. And so it's those moments that you're like, well, I'm glad that I allotted this time, and I took this time to really work on my craft to get to moments like these. And especially with school, it can be hard sometimes because you got homework at night and then band practice and stuff like that. But I think I find a lot of joy in it. So it's not like something that's a weight on my shoulders. I'm just like, oh, I want to do this. And so it's easy for me to allot that time to do it.
That's great. That's great. All right. So then let me throw a question to Caesar. So have you had a chance, and then any of you can, I'm going to go through all of you guys with this one. Have you had any sort of exposure to the music business, learned anything about how this crazy thing works? And if you have, like, what have you heard or what have you seen? Where did you see it? Maybe your teacher, because I can see there, it looks like you've got some recording studio stuff going on. So you probably have some a teacher who knows a fair amount. So far, what have you been able to find out about the music business, and where did you find it out?
Well, I'm actually in the classroom where we make music production with Mr. Sethi. He's been the one teaching us how to make beats, songwriting, and everything. So I'm new to this. So this has been really a new episode, a new chapter of music in my life. So this is very interesting. This is where I learned it from.
That's very cool. Do you guys ever talk about like the business side of anything in that class? Just curious. I know it's a thing that's not very popular in high schools yet. And so, we're certainly trying to lead the charge to get it, more front and center in the discussions with up and coming songwriters and musicians, so that you start learning a little bit about the business now. Does that ever come up in class there, really? Do we ever touch on that a bit?
We've been having some guest artists coming in and talking and performing at our school. And they've been really teaching us. They had Q&As, and we've been asking questions. So yeah, we've been on top of it.
Fantastic. How about you, Romero? I know you guys are in the same school, same class. Any different experience that you've had you want to share?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess the class here is mainly just about music production and just like making the track in general, but we do have some talks about the music industry, although I think that comes more from our guest artists. Yeah, but I think we will be talking a bit more about the industry side, business side soon, yeah, in a bit. But for now, it's mainly just about the creation of songs.
Fantastic, fantastic. So how about you, Jaden? Have music business topics ever come up in your interactions with other people in music, and in what way have they? What kind of stuff have you talked about or learned about?
Yeah, for sure. Last year during the pandemic, we didn't really have much time to like be in the classroom, but we did have a lot of Zoom meetings. And with that, we were meeting with producers and things like that. So we here at William Fleming, we got a grant with the Save the Music Foundation. And so what that has in store is that it's given us many opportunities to meet people we otherwise wouldn't have if we were just a class alone. And so, for example, I met Ross Copperman, who actually comes from my city, like a Grammy-nominated producer that comes from my city. And it's like just kind of meeting people like that. And it made me realize that the industry is more closer to my home than I thought. Coming from a small town, like I hear San Francisco and Los Angeles, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there has to be crazy opportunities in these places. And for me, I thought like, oh, I live in a small town, can't really happen that way. Like, ask anybody else outside this room or where you're from and be like, hey, have you ever heard of Roanoke, Virginia? Answer might not even really be yes or anything like that. But yeah,
No, it's exciting. You can be anywhere. I mean, it's I bet when any one of you listen to one of, a favorite playlist somewhere, you have no idea where those artists are based. It doesn't even matter, right? Because the way we can all access music everywhere, that's fantastic. But the fact that you do have, people who have been successful in the industry from your hometown there and come back and visit and speak, that is fantastic. That is really great. You're making some great contacts. Mm-hmm. Excellent. How about you, Mystery? So, I mean, it definitely sounds like you're active in the industry in terms of, performing and all of that. What kind of exposure have you had to the business side of things? Or, has anybody explained any of that at this stage?
My mom is really interested in the business side of it. I'm starting to get into it a little bit. I know that there are pros and there are cons to it. Like there are dangers and you have to protect yourself with like copyrights and licensing, like that type of stuff. But when Jada was talking about like meeting people, I wanted to bring up like in LA, like run into so many people. And it just reminded me of that. Like I have so many stories of just meeting like all types of influencers and like that type of thing. You can just go to a restaurant and get something to eat or just be at a furniture store and you can run into somebody like who's like has 1 million followers on Instagram. It's crazy. Or maybe even more. It's kind of funny that way. Like I've met, if you know who Danielle Kahn is, she's like an influencer. I've met her, like, Leah's laughing. I've met her 3 times accidentally. It's really hilarious, actually.
That's an advantage to being in an entertainment city for sure. So, if you're there, you should definitely take full advantage of it. No question. But it's, there.
Oof.
There's opportunities in all kinds of cities. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. Okay. All right. My internet's kind of crummy for some reason. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So you've learned a little bit about the business then, Mystery. Okay. So that's cool. So Leah, tell me about maybe some people you look up to. Who are some of the people that you look up to that you sort of think, wow, I want to kind of do some stuff that person has done, or I want to kind of, follow a little bit in those footsteps or learn from them?
Yeah. Well, I think on the creative side, I love Brandy Carlisle. I think that she sings with such conviction and her songwriting is impeccable and she has just the most haunting melodies that are fantastic. And so I definitely strive to create music that moves people like her music moves me. And then kind of on the business side of music, I think Taylor Swift having such an elongated career and reinventing herself, you know, so many times, I think it's just, she's very, very intelligent and she's gone about music in a way that you don't see it in a lot of artists. And so I look up to her in that sense for sure.
That's cool. How about you, Caesar? Who are some people that you maybe look up to?
From the creative side, since I'm practicing arranging songs and looking at all the instruments, it's my piano teacher. He's very original. He gets and understands everyone's situation and what happens during the song and the melodies. And that for me has been an inspiration, and learning from him has been very great as well. So very.
I'm sure that's why he loves teaching. You know, I can tell you I'm a professor, and when you have a student that feels like that about what you're doing, that's why you get out of bed in the morning. It's a wonderful thing. That's very, very cool. How about you, Jaden? Who do you look up to?
Like I said, I for sure definitely look up to Ross after seeing how he's been elevated out from the circumstances he's come from a town where, like, I don't even think we even have a single studio in Roanoke unless you go to somebody's house or something like that, and then you gotta make something from there. And another one is this bass player. He is so there's two bass players. Bass was my first instrument, so bass has a very close thing to my heart. One is Victor Wooten, who my teacher actually showed me, and I saw his bass playing. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's the greatest bass player alive. And like, if you haven't checked him out, you should, because he's very good. And he not only does he play bass, but he teaches you his philosophy about instrumentation in the first place. And I've kind of taken that to heart. And then another person is Hook. He is from the Joy Division, and my bass style is pretty close to how his is. My bass playing is more melody driven rather than background, as me being a bass player and knowing the struggle of having some snobby guitarist tell me, hey, just play the root note or something like that. I'm like, no, you play the root note or something.
Guitarists and bass players, they'll always be like,
exactly. There's always a clash.
Always.
And, yeah, and also to end it off, I do have to say my music teacher, Mr. Ribby, he's also an inspiration to me, because even today, like yesterday, we were here after school and he knocked out 10 beats in flat. He has like perfect pitch and like all these different type of things, and definitely learned a lot. And the biggest thing I can always say about him is that nobody was really fighting for this program as hard as he was, and the fact that we got so much that we got now is due to him, and he's kind of taught me to even fight hard for my music and things like that, and for me to be heard. So
so inspirational. And you know, I mean, I know what's amazing is whenever anybody's able to help any of you out, you know, pay it forward, right? When your time comes, when you're successful, when you're, you know, you've got a really accomplished career, don't forget to look back and help the next person that was you, right, behind you. So so inspirational.
For sure. I definitely like, one of my biggest goals with music is to do that. So I want to get to a place where I can make it out of Roanoke as well, and then come back and keep finding new talent from Roanoke and bringing them up with me until eventually you start hearing Roanoke as like a music hub in the same way Seattle was in the 90s, and Los Angeles, and all these other different places that have been on the map. I want Roanoke to have that place where it's Star City, for crying out loud. We got stars here.
There you go. That's it. All it starts with that mindset. That's fantastic. How about you, Romero? Who do you look up to?
Well, I guess I look up to like a lot of artists that I've listened to both past and present, but I'd say now probably creatively Jacob Collier. Um, Basically he just has this like really incredible approach to like harmony and how he thinks about it. He has perfect pitch as well, so but it's a bit more than that. He can just well, he has just some incredible like just ways of understanding and being able to like listen to notes and music and whatnot, and also sort of pushing the boundaries of what's possible in music. Like there's this one song where he actually modulated to like G half sharp or something, which is outside of the piano's tonal scale. So I guess I just really like the ways of just like experimenting with music in terms of how far you can push it. I guess also another person, she sadly passed away, like I think at the beginning of 2020. But her name was Sophie, and I mean, she was just kind of crazy person, honestly. I don't know. I mean, but I just really like her music. I guess it can be a little weird for some people, but she just makes some really like experimental sort of sounds and ways of structuring her music. And also on the marketing side, she has this one album product, I think, where actually the album on YouTube just has lots of pictures of slides, like different types of slides, which is just like a way of like showing how absurd like some advertising can be in terms of music. And there's a lot more to her than that. But yeah, I just think she has a really interesting way of she had an interesting way of looking at music and how it could be pushed into the future. So yeah.
Very cool. So much inspiration out there. How about you, Mystery? Who do you look up to professionally, creatively, or from a music business perspective?
Well, I look up to Lady Gaga because she was hated on in high school, but then she took it upon herself and made herself successful and proved everybody wrong. And I think that's really admirable, especially when there's a Facebook group. I don't really use Facebook, but where it was basically hating on her. And it's still pictures of it are posted online. And it's really upsetting to me because it's like, this girl has like so much talent and you didn't even see it. And also Marilyn Monroe, because she's just a badass. I mean, come on, like there's so many stories like of how she's just so inspirational. And also I don't want to self-promote, but I have an album coming out tomorrow, so pretty cool.
Okay, that's cool. Where can people find that on like the different digital music services?
Yeah,
Where are they
on
going to be able to find it?
Spotify, yeah,
Okay,
on
very
Apple
cool.
Music, SoundCloud.
Well, congratulations. That's fantastic. Very, very cool. Excellent. Well, so speaking of music, right? Well, so let's start with you and then we'll loop back around, right? If you had to think of all the different music you've created, either songs you created or arrangements you've done, right, Caesar, or recordings you've made that maybe somebody else wrote, whatever it is, whatever your creative thing is, right? Do you have a particular favorite or one of your favorites, and why? Why is it your favorite? What makes it your favorite? So if you look at your album coming out right now, what's your favorite track on there and why?
It's hard.
Well, it doesn't have to be your favorite. Pick one that you like. Just pick one and tell us what you like about that one.
Well, this one actually is already released, so you can listen to it right now. But Picture Perfect is a really good song, in my opinion.
Why? What makes you like it?
I really like it because the harmonies, I just like the way it sounds. And I also like the message it's sending. It's about long distance relationships and not how they're picture perfect. So,
okay, yeah. That's cool. Long distance relationships, that's a good topic to talk about in a song, definitely. Okay, how about you, Leah? Pick one of your favorites. I know it's like you love them all, but pick one of your favorites and what is it about it that you love? Was it the creative process? Was it the lyrics? Is it who you worked with on it? Like what makes you like it?
You're making me choose my children. But
just pick one. Doesn't matter which one.
There was this there was this one song I wrote called Because, and I absolutely love that song because I wrote it about a very vulnerable situation that I think a lot of people can relate to. And I think, I wrote that in a time where I was at a, pretty low point, and I was sort of just pouring my heart out into this song. And I think the emotion that I was feeling was portrayed well in the song through the melody and the lyrics. And I'm very proud of that because as a songwriter, I really strive to create songs that people can relate to and they can feel the emotion that I'm feeling. I think that's why I love music, is because it brings people together. It makes people realize that they can come together on shared experiences and that they're not alone. And I think that's definitely what helps me even listening to music. When I listen to a song and I'm like, wow, I've been through that. It brings me a sense of comfort almost. And so I'm proud of this song because I feel like it's a song that can do that for other people, for sure.
It's so important, music does so much more than just entertain us, right? I mean, it's there for us to get us through hard times and make sure that we don't feel like we're alone. It's one of the wonderful things about writing songs and the ability for that, those lyrics, that music to really touch somebody, especially when they need it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. How about you, Romero? What piece, like what musical project would you say you really liked, and why did you like it, that you've worked on?
Well, I guess I haven't really been like making music that long to be able to have anything really, so I'm not sure how that would work. Sorry.
Well, so you were talking about sound design and starting to create new sounds. Have you had a chance to create some new sounds on your own?
Yeah, there's this one GarageBand project, I don't know, where I was just trying to, I mean, I haven't really, it's sort of it's not really something that my music teacher is like telling me like, oh, this is something you can create, but it's just
That's
something
okay.
that I've done on my own time. But
Well, do you like it, and what did you like about it? Were you like, the sound was so cool, or it reminded me of this, or I was inspired by, my alarm clock inspired me for making this sound? Like, tell me a little bit about what you liked about it.
well, I guess just sort of the soundscape it made, where I just added lots of different effects onto it to just transform the sound into something different, like put a bit crusher on the piano, which sounds a little weird, but and also I actually happened to somehow make the drums like more of a tonal instrument that sort of sweep back and forth with I think microphaser or something. But I haven't really, it's not like done yet or whatever that means. I haven't really worked that much on it, but
That's
I just,
okay. I just wanted to see what spoke to you, like what piece of art, and that's art, like what piece of art have you been working on that you're like, I like this because it makes me feel happy, sad, it's crazy, it feels, like that's, the sounds are like nothing you've ever heard before. I just want to know, what makes you enjoy that you created that.
yeah. All right.
So very cool. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Caesar? Of all the different things you've arranged, worked on, which one comes to mind as something you really like, and why?
Wow, this is hard.
Or pick the most recent project then. Like, what have you done in the last week or 2 weeks?
I was working on my ear, like perfecting my ear and listening to songs and like trying to decode what the person is playing. And I'm halfway through that process, and I love just rehearing it and just seeing if it matches or not. And it's just it's what I enjoy doing and hearing during my free time. That's
awesome. That's so important though. I mean, for musicians, songwriters, music producers, music engineers, sound designers, right? You've got to have really developed ears. You have to know how to listen and what to listen to. So that's such an important part of building up those skills and that craft. That's awesome. All right. How about you, Jaden?
For me, it was a song that I wrote last year during the pandemic, and it was called Not Fair. And I played it live at my school in our school auditorium here. And it was the first time that we got the new equipment and we got this new guitar, and it was an electric acoustic guitar, and it sounded really nicely. And I was able to use it, and it was very cool experience for me personally, getting over boundaries of music that I had. So like I always hated the sound of my own voice. So for me, it kind of was a moment of realization that people like the way I sounded. So I was like, all right, I'll play it live. And I ended up playing it live. My family were all the way in the back, and there's a YouTube video of it online. And you can just hear my family in the back just screaming their heads off. They're like, yeah, exactly. And yeah, or as my teacher, Mr. Ruby said, he was like the Jaden Moyer cheer squad, which is it was hilarious, but it was a very good moment for me. It was the first time that I felt like a musician, and the song came from such a heavy place where it was a story-driven song, but it had parts of me in it, and that was very important to me. I was in a global pandemic and wasn't even able to really go to concerts. There were concerts I was supposed to go to that I missed. There was all these different types of things. So Not Fair, I felt like, was a good portrayal of that.
Yeah, Not Fair is such a good way to put it. We'll talk about a perfect set of words right there. Absolutely. So Leah, who else in your family? Are there any other people in your family who are musicians or songwriters? Anybody else? Or are you the only one?
Well, my brother does musical theater, but he's also sort of into commercial music as well. And he put out some songs this year. He's the hardest worker I know. And right now he's at the University of Michigan for musical theater. Very exciting, but my parents are absolute music lovers. So, you know, I grew up with music always playing Saturday mornings, you know, either new wave or jazz or Broadway music. It was always something. I think my mom's a beautiful singer. She qualifies, you know, classifies herself as a shower singer, but I think she's a wonderful voice. So I think that's where we got it from. But my dad also sings a little bit, and he started learning the guitar, which is very special because sometimes we play together. But my family, they're my biggest fans, and they help me with absolutely everything. And I don't think I'd be where I am today without them. So in that sense, they're sort of part of it with me and on this journey with me.
Yeah, for sure. You guys all have different ways between teachers or school or family, you know, finding that support structure wherever that is, or maybe it's your church or wherever you can find that. People who are also inspired by music and believe in what you're doing is so important. Caesar, is there anybody else in your family who is musical, or is it really just you? Anybody else around you in your immediate family?
My sister plays the trumpet. She's in the same group as I'm playing. So we both go through the same struggle, and she's learning so quick, and she's like 12. So it's a very nice experience to be playing with her sometimes and arguing if it sounds right or not. So yeah.
Got
really
it. So
fun.
your parents have two musical children, and they're not musical though, just you guys.
My mother played the snare when she was young
Okay.
in a band. So that's all she tells me. But
You haven't heard it?
No.
You have to take her word for it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How about you, Jaden? Immediate family involved around you, or like extended, you know, cousins, aunts, uncles, anybody else a musician besides you?
Yes, actually. My dad, he did music when he was younger, and he still does music for my church that he is the pastor of. And also he taught me pretty much every instrument I know except for drums. So all the instruments I know is thanks to him. And then as for non-immediate family, my uncles, for example, 3 of my uncles, my great grandmother's brothers, they actually had a band called the Moyer Brothers. They were a gospel band, and they traveled all these different types of things. Like they're really more connected in with the inner city of Roanoke. So sometimes when somebody hears my last name, they're like, "Oh, are you related to the Moyer Brothers?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." And you know, it's definitely fun. But I have a very musical family.
Got it. Fantastic. So, Mr. I know you mentioned your mom. Do you have any other people in your family that are musical?
Well, actually, my mom doesn't do music. I'm the only one in the family
Oh, I'm
who does
sorry.
it.
I could have sworn. Okay.
She's
Sorry. My
a
mistake.
really,
Okay.
really big fan.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I am actually the only one in my family who does music, which is
Got it.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't happen. It's not as common as somebody else, who has come up from musicians. So that's extra cool.
Yeah, a lot of people in my family are really like educated and interested in well, my dad's a professor of finance and he works at Rice University in Texas. And he comes from a really, really smart background. And I don't know, he's a really hard worker, like probably one of the hardest workers I know. But yeah, that just proves that side of the family for
That
you.
he's got that passion or love for music, I suppose, an appreciation of music.
Yeah, he definitely appreciates music, but he never really pursued it, I don't think. But I'm the only one who
We can't
really.
not everybody can be a musician, right?
Anyone can be a musician.
True, but not everybody needs to be.
True.
Yeah, no, anybody can and should pursue it if they love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you, Romero?
I guess my dad actually, he produces a lot of, actually, I don't really know too much about them, but I have heard some of them, but he produces lots of ambient tracks, which are pretty cool, even though like, I don't actually listen to ambient that much. I don't like not listen to it. I actually do listen to some ambient type music, and I think it's pretty interesting. But yeah, he mainly produces that type of music, but yeah. But I mean, he's
Cool.
he's mainly a lawyer, so it's more of a, I guess, hobby for him. But yeah.
That's cool. So let's pretend that I could wave a magic wand and then there's a bunch of music business people like right there in front of you, right? Do you have any particular question you wish you knew the answer to? I'm not going to try to answer them, by the way, but I just wanted to know, the things that you're like, I wish I knew more about this, right? What might those questions be? If any of you have any ideas of stuff that you're like, I always wish I could find somebody I could ask this question to. Any questions that come to mind by any chance? Anybody can just jump in.
Do you enjoy the music business?
That's a good question. Okay. Other questions?
So sort of like, what do you look for in an artist coming to the table? Because I know, a lot of times now, there are a lot of people that go viral on the internet. And so that's what kind of executives, they're attracted to having that audience already made, right? And for me, I'm sort of in this like grassroots effort of performing and trying to find it that way. And sort of wondering is that still present and attractive to, people that work for labels and things like that, just I've always, what are you looking for now and how has it changed sort of over the last decade or 20 years,
Great question. I'm sure it has changed a lot. Although some things stay the same, but a lot of things change. It's a great question. Anybody else have other questions that you've thought of before you wish you could ask somebody?
Yes, I always wanted to ask more questions about how they utilize networking, because I know networking is like a very big thing. Like, where exactly did they start from? How they build up to where it is that they ended up, as far as networking wise, and knowing kind of like the right people and how to find said right people.
Great question. Great question. Any other questions come to mind? And it's fine if you already shared one, just trying to see. I'm sure a lot of people watching us are like the same question.
I would ask questions about algorithms.
Okay.
I would ask questions about that and like that type of thing because those are really important.
Yeah, in terms of the way people are, for example, playlists on a lot of music services are created by algorithms, for example, right?
Yeah.
Is that sort of what you're thinking about in terms of the use of an algorithm? Or are you talking about like artificial intelligence creating music? Like what sort of algorithms use are you thinking of?
I was thinking about that, the playlist one, and also social media, because I feel like people who have a higher social media number get recognized more in this society. And that's a little off-putting to me, but I mean, I guess I would ask a music business person about like that type of thing. Just why is that happening? Like, why are people striving to have a higher follower count than like being talented
It's
and
like,
working on their craft?
Well,
Yeah.
that's a $1 million question right there.
I wonder the same thing. That was kind
Yeah.
of what I was, a lot of these kids, especially they go viral, they've never played in front of an audience. And you kind of
Exactly.
wonder what is more important in the eyes and what to do with that information,
Right. Like some of these kids, like, for example, I remember there was a scandal with Billie Eilish and she didn't even know like some famous, I don't even remember who, but who was it again? I forgot. Like it was a really, I don't know. But some of these TikTokers, like, how are they even relevant?
Well, I mean,
And
I
they
think
have, like-
there is no answer to that question, right? I mean, in that you could ask 10 people and you'll get 10 answers.
Like, what did
you know,
they
there
even
is
do
no-
again to get relevant?
There is no easy answer to that. There isn't at all. But what I can say, because I can see this amongst all of you, and it's probably true about whoever's watching us, right? That you want to put in the hard work. You know what I mean? You want to actually like develop your craft, practice it, spend time doing it, get as much experience as you can, get as much exposure as you can, right? So that you can get people who want to listen to your music, want to know what you're up to, because they legitimately, are inspired by your talent and your creative output. And don't worry about why. Don't worry about why somebody else who's talent is, bouncing a pen on their hand is getting a zillion followers. Like, who cares? Don't let that derail any of you. Definitely just keep focusing on your passion and let that be the thing that people flock to you over. Because your question's a fantastic one, and I just don't think there's any magical answer to that question. People enjoy what they enjoy and they watch what they watch. But I think, focus on all of you guys you've got your eye on the prize in terms of focusing on your talent. And that's where you should put your efforts. Don't worry about why some crazy population of people follows somebody else that doesn't seem to have any talent. Great question.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
That's very true, because oftentimes I think, especially like teenagers, they can get very discouraged seeing everything. And now that we have the whole world at our hands, it's hard not to. And I think it's important to understand that you're going to develop an audience that truly, truly loves you for your music and what you do, no matter how long it takes. And I think that's something that I kind of keep in the back of my mind, that I want a long lasting audience that will stay with me, and that will show up. So I think that's very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are on like our last few minutes. And so I kind of want to do like one more pass around and see, like, let's pretend that, somebody who's watching us right now is basically you like 3 years ago. It's like a younger version of you 3 years ago, right? What kind of advice would you tell them? What would you say? Would you say like, do more of this, do less of that, worry about this, don't worry about that, spend more time doing this thing? Like, what would your advice to yourself be if you were like, hey, me from 3 years ago? What would you give yourself advice about with respect to music? Maybe Jaden, why don't we go to you first? What would you tell Jaden from 3 years ago?
I would say, first of all, like, Jaden from 3 years ago, you're kind of doing some stupid things right now. Just to get things off from there. Mostly with music, I would tell him, like, your potential lies more beyond just you being able to write songs on a piece of paper. And I would tell me 3 years ago to go over to that guitar that you have laying on the floor in your closet, pick that thing up and start practicing now, and that it'll pay off.
Great advice. Okay, how about you, Romero? What would you tell you 3 years ago with respect to music?
I guess basically just don't wait for it to come to you. Like if you want to make music or just experiment with music more, then you have the tools to do that. Whether or not you can pay for software or not doesn't matter, because at this day and age, you can actually just get free software on your computer that lets you do pretty incredible things with music in general. And just that, like, you're not gonna like have that moment where it's just like, oh, I feel great right now, and I feel like I can actually make music and show it to people and feel good about that, because I feel like I would take any chance I can get to procrastinate about it. So just essentially just doing it, no matter like whatever that takes, to like be able to experiment with music more, to be able to like just start that journey a little bit sooner is just, it just makes sense, and it's going to be more worth it in the end.
Seize the day. Seize the day. Absolutely. How about you, Mystery? What would you tell your musical self 3 years ago? From 3 years ago?
I would say congratulations, bitch, you did it. I would say that you worked really hard, and that everyone who you surround yourself with now is extremely proud of you, and you're in a really good environment, and just keep doing what you're doing. But
That would be the advice. Keep doing what you're doing. Like from an advice perspective, what would you tell what do you wish somebody told you 3 years ago from an advice perspective? Well, it sounds like you kind of touched on it already though, and that you were like, just keep doing what you're doing because it's working.
Yeah.
So
keep
doing
writing.
Keep writing. Keep writing. Excellent. Exactly. Okay. Let's see. Who have I not gone to yet? Caesar, how about you? What do you wish, like, what would you tell yourself 3 years ago? What do you wish somebody had told you 3 years ago about music, about getting into music?
To not be shy to try anything new, to be honest, because I was only focusing on one thing, and I learned multiple things on trying it. A little too late, but just try new things and don't be shy.
Oh, you are not too late. Let me promise you, you have not tried anything too late. Okay, not even a little bit. Just want to clarify that, but keep going.
So just to try everything and don't be shy about it. And if you keep making errors, keep doing it, because practice makes really perfect almost. So just keep doing it.
So true. So true. All right. How about you, Leah? You bring it home.
I'd say probably learn piano in addition to guitar. I think that's something, I know I can learn it now, but I wish I had done that 3 years ago for sure. Write a song a day, probably, because I mean, yeah, I just think that's very important in developing a good songwriting brain, is to write a song a day. And then also co-write with others. I think that's very important, and starting that off early is incredibly important, and especially making those connections and just being able to sit in a room and write with people. I love it now, but I wish I had done it earlier, and kind of experienced that. And then also sort of like, put yourself out there and don't be afraid of what people are going to think, especially as teenagers, and especially on social media, we put ourselves in a very vulnerable position. And it's kind of like, it can be a platform for love, but also a platform for hate. And so not letting that fear of who's going to hate on you or who's going to say what kind of overtake what you want to do, I think that that's very important. And I wish I had that mindset 3 years ago as well,
Well, you guys are wise beyond your years. I am so impressed with all of you, and I'm so grateful that I got to spend this hour with you. Thank you so much for joining us here for this session. Thank all of you who were watching this. I hope you're as inspired as I am. Oh, I wish I could go back and be one of these folks that is just staring out at many, many years of success and enjoyment thanks to music. So, so that's going to be it for today for this session. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Take care and good luck with you pursuing your passions as well. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all my guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you.